Hello and welcome to Soul in Balance, and in this video we will be going over trust issues and betrayal in the 8th house. Now this also includes heavy Pluto placements, and also if you've got a lot of Scorpio in your chart as well, because they all correlate, and we really want to know how to best navigate this issue. Well, it's not really an issue, but it's obviously something that we've chosen to experience and understand this lifetime, because that's all what the 8th house is about, is going deeper, digging deeper into the truth. What is real, what is not, understanding the darker side of life. Now, if we have a look at, say, the 8th house is the underworld. It's negative, lower vibrations, negative entities to some degree. It's the house of psychology, it's the house of death and rebirth, it's the house of occultism, the house of sex, hidden knowledge. It's also like secret societies like the Freemasons and Scientology, and just hidden knowledge. And it's also the house of betrayal. And what comes with this aspect is you're pretty much a walking human lie detector. You're like a human X-ray machine. And, and this comes from the intense psychic abilities that we do have. And in a way, it's great because we live in a world that we really can't trust. And we've had so many experiences in life that do make us that little bit skeptical about things. We're really great at reading people and reading between the lines. Like, we can see the material world and the energetic world and see when they don't match, they don't line up, so it is, it's a double-edged sword, this placement. When you have heavy 8th house placements, like, it comes with a lot of gifts, but then it also comes with a lot of harder traumatic aspects in the mix. So when we have a lot of heavy 8th house placements, we are very prone to seeing the darker side of life, which means we also attract a lot of negative experiences, darker experiences, betrayal, things like that. Like, we probably find throughout most of our life we've had a lot of death. A lot of death, whether it's family or friends or situations where we've really had to transmute and process that and understand the more spiritual side of life, understanding the death and rebirth process of life. And what comes with that is that we attract a lot of dark characters, shady characters. There's also a lot of draw to them. There's a lot of attraction and interest in understanding, the darker, shadier characters and entities that present themselves in our life, because we're not necessarily interested in, what would you say? Not that we're not interested in the lighter side of life, but it does have this fascination with what's darker and the psychology of it, because in a lot of ways it's part of us. It's like how Jordan Peterson talks about how Harry and Voldemort, I think I've got that right, from what is it called? That movie, I can't even think about it. How how Jordan Peterson talks about how Harry's got a piece of Voldemort in him, which we do. People with heavy 8th house placements, you do have that darker entity side in you, so we do attract, people like narcissists or sociopaths or psychopaths, and, a lot of those negative experiences. And this is how I think we have a lot of trust issues, especially like in the world that we live in right now. Can we really trust what's going on in society, like the medical industry or the governments and things like that, and all the experiences that we've had throughout our lives being an 8th house person? We're very skeptical of people, and we can read people very well, and we can see patterns very well. This is why, we are people like conspiracy theorists and, understand occultism so well, so, part of, having 8th house placements means that we can see these negative entities and negative people, but then we also have a very, beautiful understanding of them as well, because we know that's part of us. But what we have to also understand is that we have to be careful. We have to use discernment. And because we are, in a way, intrigued by the darker side of life, we also have to have, trust our radar. Trust our radar when it's, when something comes up and alarm bells ring and our body is just telling us something is wrong. And these signals can be like getting parking fines, or what's another one that I have? I've had tire issues, or, things like that. You have things like breaking. Like I've even had, like when I've had someone in my life that wasn't very good, I had the handles of my cups break. And, little things like that. Like, we really have to trust our instincts and trust, the signals that we get from the universe that something isn't right. Because in the 8th house, it's always wanting us to align. It's always going to warn us when something isn't right. And I think too, because we do have this connection with darker entities, they are kind of like, I don't know, if you're an 8th house person, I know that I can feel this myself, that I have, darker energies and darker spirits that connect to me. And yes, they do cause issues in my life, but I also do feel like they protect me, So, and also having that, all these experiences, throughout life, of things that we can't trust. We really need to trust ourselves. We need to look at the 2nd house, which is trusting ourselves, instead of putting our trust into somebody else. And that's what's hard about the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of bonding. It's the house where you're really vulnerable and you can't control it. But what you can control is yourself. What you can control is how you feel and your knowledge and your ability to read between the lines. And it's really hard when you're an 8th house person, because all you want to do is feel connected to, because you have this need to deeply bond with people. And it's just very, very hard, because, what comes with this deep bond and vulnerability, which is the 8th house, also comes with a huge risk of being betrayed. And, that is quite traumatic. And I think a lot of us go through this a lot throughout our lives. But what's really beautiful about the 8th house is that we can experience so much trauma and we're able to transmute it, even though we're so sensitive. Like, we can emotionally handle more than what other people can. Like, the ability that we have, the emotional growth that we have and transformation we have, a lot of people don't have. And I think what's really important to understand, when we are betrayed, or, things like that, or trust issues come up, is that we don't seek revenge. Like, one of the things that Scorpio, Pluto, the 8th house is known for in its lower vibrations is revenge. And, people with 8th house placements, like, no one can deliver revenge like you can. But the thing is, what's very important, with great power comes great responsibility, and you need to let the universe do its thing. Like, you don't need to do anything. Like, you just take that energy, that life force and power that you do have being an 8th house person, and you direct it to where you're going, where you want to go, and what you want, and moving forward with your life. And the universe handles the rest. Like, the 8th house is very karmic. There's so much karma attached to it. So realistically, if you've done the right thing and in yourself, you've done the best that you can, like, I know just recently I was in a situation where, like, all these things were popping up. Like, my freaking radar was going crazy. And I think for me, I just wanted to just deeply bond with someone that I thought was, like, perfect for me. And I tried to force myself to trust this person when it really wasn't the right thing to do, And I could sit there and go and do something back to this person, but what's the point, Like, what's the point? The universe will do its thing, What goes around comes around. And at the end of the day, I think it's also important too, is that you don't wish bad on people either, because that is exactly the same as actually physically going and doing something. So that's why when things happen, especially when you're an 8th house person, you need to understand that just comes with the territory. That's what we're here to experience. We're here to understand all the little pieces of psychology and the darker side of life, so then we learn to trust ourselves more. So it really is this beautiful experience that is not for the faint-hearted. It is actually very, very, very hard. And something that I feel that needs to be said as well is that because we have such an understanding nature of the darker side, you come to realize is that, like, it's not just, you know, empaths and angels and positive beings that come here to help this world. You know, it's also the darker entities and darker people that also help this world as well. And I kind of see them as like an angel in disguise in some way, you know, like, because we don't always learn from love, peace and harmony. You know, we always learn from something traumatic or something that hurt us, you know, and like, you know, all these things have their place, but I feel like when we're in the 8th house is that we seem to just keep repeating the same thing over and over and over again, you know, where the lesson is, you know, is past its use by date. But I don't know, I just feel like the big lesson here is to just trust ourselves, to use discernment, and, you know, like, and just understand what, you know, whatever we put out comes back. And, you know, and we need to learn that lesson within ourselves. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. You know, they can do the most shittest things and do whatever. But as long as you know that you are sticking to what's right and you're sticking to, you know, like the higher vibrations of the 8th house, which is the phoenix, which is the dove, which is the higher vibration, and just understanding it's just a part of life. It's a part of the cycle of life, and part of your journey. You know, I think this is where we grow and become stronger within ourselves. And something that I found that was really interesting, the other day I was listening to a video on YouTube, and this guy was talking about this story. He said there was a story where there was a snake and a turtle, and the snake says to this turtle, this little turtle, hey, can I get on your back and can you take me across the river? And the turtle's like, are you crazy? Like, why would I do that? You'll kill me. And then the snake says to the turtle, why would I do that? Then we'll both drown. And then the turtle's like, oh yeah, okay, makes sense. And then halfway through, when they get to the middle of the river, there's like this of the snake biting the turtle. And the turtle's like, why'd you do that? Now we're both going to die. And then the snake says, that's just the way I am. And, you know, like, it made me really think, you know, like, that people are just the way they are. And, you know, we can't do anything about that. And, you know, and like I said throughout this whole video, you just have to trust yourself. And when you have a lot of 8th house placements, you know, we have experienced a lot of trauma. So that means sometimes our judgment can be skewed. Like, there's been times when we've been completely wrong about things, you know, because we are so much in fear because we have experienced so much. But when it's just like constant, like when it's constant, like your immune system's going crazy, or you feel sick, like sometimes when you're, you know, when you first meet someone, you'll feel physically sick in their presence, or, you know, connecting to them in the initial stages. There's always these red flags that happen. But that's one of the hard parts that I have to, you know, actually address, is that sometimes our, you know, our fear can come in and, you know, skew things that aren't necessarily there as well. So it is hard to navigate. And I did talk about this in a recent video, how, you know, like fear, when it's fear, you're all over the place, you're a mess, you can't sleep, you can't concentrate, you know, you're not in a good place. But when it's your real intuition, when it's your gut speaking, it's like calm. It's like this calm in knowing, like, I know that sign. I know that, I know that, I know that. Okay, so I'm going to finish up the video, but I just think it's important to understand and that what we all should be doing when we have 8th house placements is to be, really discerning and to really learn to trust ourselves, because majority of the time we are right. Like we have had so many experiences that, like we're pretty spot on, like in, matters of what's hidden, because, we can see what other people can't see, like we can walk into a room and feel every single person and what their issues are and what they're hiding, and they don't even have to say anything. So, that's really important to take into account and understand about ourselves. And yes, it does come with heartache. Yes, like we are prone to being betrayed, and, it would be nice if we had a nice life where things were easy and we could just trust. But then we wouldn't have the ability to see what's going on right now in the world, and it's the people that have a lot of 8th house placements that are very aware of what's going on in our world right now. And that's the people that we need more than ever. So yeah, just understand that, and also once we recognize people that we can't trust, we need to get them out of our lives, like because we're people that deeply bond with people. It's just not healthy for us or them to have them in our lives. Like I know a lot of people with heavy 8th house placements that, have been cheated on by people, and they've stayed with them and and tried to forgive them, but then couldn't forgive them, but then tormented the partner that cheated, or the partner that betrayed them in some kind of way, like where trust was broken. And we really can't be doing that. And you'll probably find a lot of people with heavy 8th house placements, once you've done wrong by me, they're gone, like most people are like that with 8th house placements. But what I feel like is really important for people with heavy 8th house placements is, especially in relationships, because 8th house rules deep bonding, connections, relationships, commitment, marriage, and sex, obviously deeply bonding. I think one of the most important things you need to do with a partner or a new partner or any type of investment into somebody, it's very important that you express how important honesty is and give people that opportunity to understand that. And I think if you're somebody like me that wants to trust, that wants to be able to just finally be able just to trust and relax. Something my brother actually taught me recently in one of his podcasts, where he's very much about trust. He just trusts people straight off the bat. And what he does is he gives them trust, and then they, you organize, or you have things where you meet each other, like you meet each other's needs and expectations in little increments where you learn to trust people, because trust is earned. And, when you're an 8th house person, you're not just going to just give all your trust straight away. You're not blind to the world. You've had enough experiences in life to realize that, you just don't blindly trust something. But if you want to trust and you don't like being in this state, which is very prevalent with the 8th house, it's very hard to, detach from this side, like just trust in little increments. And when people meet you in that place where they're earning trust, then you can start to build trust. It's like a house, so you're building this foundation of a house, and then you can build on top of that. So that's pretty much all I want to say. But yeah, just trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust your nervous system, and trust the little messages, like even the birds. And when you've got something in your mind and something breaks, like there's usually some kind of correlation or message there, So, and also crows. I always think crows are really good to trust as well. Like when something's happening, like if you kind of Google, how many crows and what it means, you'll figure out the message with crows as well. It's something that the 8th house is highly connected to. So anyway, that's it for me, guys. I hope this was helpful, and all I can say is trust yourself. And at the end of the day, all you've got is your solid ability to rely on yourself and connect to something bigger than you.